Hello, Degens! Welcome to Degenerate Takes. I am the Brofect One AJ, and with me, as always, is the Sportsbook Whisperer, the man with the numbers, Mr. Noah Engelbretson. Noah, how the hell are you doing on this lovely Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022? We are less than a week from the Super Bowl. We are 2 days away from the trade deadline, less than a week away from the All-Star break, the All-Star game as well for the NBA. Noah, we have a big week ahead of us, and it's only getting started. But how the hell are you doing today?
Dude, I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Noah, honestly, I could not complain. Uh, I can say this now on. I can officially say this now on the podcast, Noah. Uh, Monday, the day after the Super Bowl, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. We have exciting news dropping. And we will be dropping that on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So if you do not follow us already at Degenerate Takes on Twitter and Instagram and at Degen Takes 69 on the TikTok, you need to follow us because no, this news, I hate to say it, but this news is honestly going to be once like never been done before. This has never been done before on the scale that we are going to be doing this, and I'm I'm beyond excited, bro. This is going to be a once in a lifetime thing, and I'm really excited to bring all the DGens and you along with me for the ride. Noah, what do you have anything to say about our big announcement coming on February 14th?
I mean, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm going to keep my lips sealed for now. Stay tuned for updates, DGens.
Absolutely. Please do stay tuned. And no, I swear to God, if I see Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter with this bullshit on Super Bowl Sunday, I'll know exactly who to fucking find because there's only a handful of people who know it. And yeah, the other people that know about it wouldn't say shit. So I'll know who to fucking come for, all right?
All right.
But no, as our lives are going to change on Monday, February the 14th, with our once in a lifetime announcement, many others people's lives have changed these last couple days coming in with the NBA trade deadline. To honestly, I want to say blockbuster, but I can't say blockbuster yet because I think we're going to get blockbuster tomorrow. Two big trades happening today in the NBA, one involving the Pacers and the Kings. The Pacers received Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson, while Sacramento receives Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a future second round pick that is protected. Noah, I know that the NBA has a very interesting way to draft their players with the lottery system and everything. So protected future second just means there's no chance they can get rid of that second, right? Do you know, or are we just going to speak out of our ass for the NBA for the next 10 minutes?
What? You're talking about a projected draft or a
A
protected
protected,
draft pick?
protected. So meaning that
Yeah,
like
that
whatever their standings are, it can't go up or down, right?
no. It
No, so what the
uh,
fuck does that
it
mean, protected?
it just means that they will have that draft pick.
Oh, so that's just a fancy way of saying like they're getting a draft pick.
Uh, kind of. Um, I don't know all of the details that go along with it, but I know um, sometimes like in the NBA, you'll have top three, top five, top 10 protected draft picks, which means if it is within a, top three, or if that draft pick ends up being a top five or a top 10, then it's, protected for that team. And then it like downgrades as the years go on. I don't know. It's a whole thing. I could, spend 10, 15 minutes explaining it, but um, doesn't really matter that much for second round picks.
No, 100% it doesn't. But you know, as we have seen with many picks, Tom Brady coming to mind just because he's retired more recently. You know, pick number 199 can always be better than pick number one. So it's not to mean that the second round doesn't mean anything. It's still a chance of getting younger talent. But big trade, honestly, coming from both of these teams. Noah, now I am a self proclaimed person who doesn't know a lot about the NBA, but I do watch, I do pay attention, and I know all of these names Halliburton, Heald, Thompson, Sabonis, Holiday, Lamb. Like, these were all, I felt, staples of those franchises, and all three of those guys on both squads getting the boot, moving out of there. Interested to see what this dude does for these two teams. I mean, looking at the standings right now, Pacers in 13th place, not really. I don't think going to do a lot when it comes to the finals, and the Kings, on the other hand, they're sitting at 13th as well. So they're definitely trying to rebuild for next year, it looks like, knowing what I know about trades and how franchises are built, because I do follow other sports, because that's
Well,
what we do on this show.
no, you have two different trajectories with the two teams involved here. The Kings trying to make a push to get to the playoffs and those, or at least a play-in game situation. The Pacers looking to add pieces to rebuild their franchise around. So you have two different, you know, ways that those teams are going with this trade.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I have not been paying close attention to it. Looking at it now, being on a 4-win losing streak, and the record, yeah, I see that now that they are looking to make a push. And honestly, I think the West is wide freaking open, Noah. Again, I just watch a lot of games. At my job, I just see all of the games on TV and watching them all and everything. I mean, the Suns are clearly the best quote unquote team in the league. I say that with air quotes because you know my feelings about the Suns. But the Warriors not far behind Grizzlies trying to make a push. It will be the West, in my opinion, is completely open, Noah. And that leads us to our next trade, Trailblazers and the Pelicans. This trade actually, I love everything Pelicans. I love Zion Williamson. I think he will, once he is healthy and at
I
playing
mean,
weight,
when the fuck is he gonna play?
dominant.
When the fuck is he gonna play?
TBD, Noah.
He
TBD.
he misses more games than he plays in.
As of right, yeah, but AD got a big ass contract, so apparently the NBA doesn't give a shit about how many games you play a season.
AD at least played at least 60-70%. Zion's playing like 30% of the games that he's like since he's been in the NBA.
Don't get me wrong, and apparently this foot injury that he's dealing with, it just isn't healing right. Nothing is really working, it seems. That's a doctor thing. That's the last thing I am as a doctor. But let's talk about what New Orleans gets from the Trailblazers. They get CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell, while Portland receives Josh Hart, Thomas Saratransky, and Nikolai Alexander Walker, Didi Lazada. I'm pretty good with names, but sorry I butchered that one. And 2022 first round pick protected, and 2 future second round picks. Those ones do not seem to be protected, so let's keep that in mind as the season goes on, because apparently being protected is important. But I mean, both teams kind of sitting at the bottom of both, divisions and every conferences, excuse me. Not the bottom, but not really inspiring. I mean, the Pelicans being in 10th place right now on a 4-game win streak seems like much more of a fluke than anything else. And, what was the other team we're talking about? Excuse me, the Trailblazers, just doing Trailblazer things, 11th place. Not really impressive what's going on there. Noah, what are your thoughts on this trade?
Well, the Pelicans are trying to make a run to improve their playoff positioning by a couple seeds, but again, none of that probably matters if Zion doesn't come back, which who the fuck knows if he is or isn't. CJ McCollum obviously going to be a huge addition to that team, going to give him more of a jump to be able to win games without Zion, but they're still not a playoff threat. Like, they're not a threat to go deep or anything. The Trailblazers, I don't know what's going to happen with Dame there. I mean, if I were him, he's said that he wants to stay there. He likes Portland. He's loyal to the team. But I mean, at some point, dude, like, he's got to just realize that he's got to leave if he wants to win.
Yeah. And, especially in the NBA, it is so hard to find people that are loyal to teams, because I feel that in the NBA more than any other sport, you see these teams shuffle up and there's a new big three every other year with players that were in the next big three the last year. And we're seeing that with the next team. We'll talk about the Nets. We'll get to that in a bit. But, yeah, to go on, yeah, I mean, tough position to be in, especially with the Pelicans. Zion needs to come back. We'll see what that happens. Because one player, especially in the NBA, can make a difference. But to your point, Dame Lillard, he's got to get out of town. Portland is not interested in winning now. They're not interested in winning next year. You got to get out of there, go join someone, and sign some ridiculously big deal because that's what the NBA seems to be about. No, you want to talk about what was supposed to be the biggest big three in NBA history in the Brooklyn Nets?
I don't know about the biggest in history, but yeah, it was supposed to be really big, and they clearly have had their issues. That hasn't come to fruition, and it probably never will.
No. It's between Kyrie playing every away game and not playing the home games and him being away for so long, along with James Harden coming out and just saying he hates living in New York and living as a person who's visited New York multiple times and as a person who lives in Arizona who's about as far from New York as you can get without living in California. Yeah, don't really think I would want to live there either. We both have a couple mutual friends who live up there, and I don't know about you, but I've heard nothing but bad things from them about living in New York. So, and they're not making NBA salary money. And so for James Harden to come out, who's making that money, to be like, yeah, this place is a shithole, like, get me out of here. I mean, are the Nets, like, I understand he brought that up, that he wants to be traded, he wants to get out of New York, but do you think the Nets are going to make a move before the deadline? I am a big fan of, the James Harden, Joel Embiid trade that you were talking about earlier, off air.
Ben
Do you think
Ben
that
Sim
actually has
Ben
any merit?
Simmons,
Ben Simmons, sorry, I was watching a
Embiid's
highlight of Joel
Embiid's
Embiid, my bad.
going nowhere.
Yeah, he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it seems Harden's kind of fed up with Kyrie's bullshit,
Which, hey, can't complain, can't blame him.
and Harden's got kind of a history of like getting what he wants. When he wants out, he seems to get it. So I think we could see a trade happen, a Harden for Ben Simmons type of trade with maybe if one team ends up budging a little bit on their position, this could totally work out. And then it seems like Harden wants to go play in Philadelphia anyways. So
Yeah. Whew.
if you're the
Philly
Nets,
does not want Ben Simmons.
if you're the Nets, you might as well trade him while you can get some value back for him, rather than just letting him walk as a free agent.
And that's definitely you got to, I'm with you on that. You get the value where you can, instead of just letting a free agent walk, you actually get a guy who was projected to be a superstar, but due to whatever issues they are at this point, because I know it was a mental health thing before, an injury before, and they just didn't want to play or something like that. I don't even know what his issue is at this point, but they cannot afford to have him on the roster anymore. He's detrimental. He's not doing anything to help.
Are you talking about Simmons?
Yeah, Simmons. Excuse me. Sorry.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
Harden's been playing great. Harden's been playing great basketball from everything that I've been seeing, and
yeah,
great's a stretch,
Simmons,
but you know what I mean.
Ben Simmons is still a really good player. He just needs a change of scenery. He needs to get his mojo back. Clearly, he doesn't want to be in Philly. Philly doesn't want him. So, I do think this trade ends up happening because I think it actually benefits both teams. Like, I think it's mutually beneficial. So I do think this trade will end up happening before the deadline. Even though Brooklyn has said like a couple different occasions they're not trading James Harden, but they're still in talks with Philadelphia, which you're not closed off to the idea of a trade if you're still talking to a team about a potential trade.
No, I will say, I'm reading a report right now from ESPN's Brian Windhorst, and he is saying that the Brooklyn Nets are shopping Joe Harris right now. So it is possible that we do see Joe Harris get the boot and get traded, and the Harden stuff is just a red herring. You got to remember, during all these trade talks and everything, we'll have to go through all of this bullshit when NFL free agency starts in the next couple weeks. But we're gonna hear a lot of bullshit. A lot of, oh, this guy's interested here. This is what this place offered, and all of it's gonna be bullshit. And so we gotta be careful, and we really gotta sift through the
The,
bullshit in the next couple days, and then the next couple
I I
months.
dis I disagree with Harden being like a red herring type of thing because the Nets are acting like they're not going to trade Harden, yet they're still talking with Philadelphia. That's the only team that they're talking to. The only place Harden's going would be to the Sixers for Ben Simmons and um, from what I understand, I think the Nets want a little bit more than just a 1-for-1 Harden Ben Simmons trade. Understandable. But also, if you're the
Yeah,
Nets, you have to realize that Harden's going to walk and go to Philadelphia regardless in the offseason. So might as well get value back for him. And they should
get
just
value
realize
for
they
him.
need to settle a little bit. But
Yeah, and I mean that's
we,
why
we
Harden
will,
came out and said what he did when he did.
yeah, we'll see what happens. And Harden obviously he's injured, but how much of that is him actually being injured versus just not wanting to play for the Nets? Like I said, I think he's also fed up with Kyrie's bullshit and doesn't want to play with Kyrie, which I don't blame
Yeah.
him. I
Uh,
feel like
no, I don't.
I feel like a good chunk of players, especially superstars in the NBA, wouldn't want to play with Kyrie because he's a
Yeah,
distraction. He's he just
and
he
and
goes through
we
stints where he just doesn't show up because he's doing things on his own agenda and he's just not reliable.
he, he is Scottie Pippen esque without the Scottie Pippen numbers.
I
Because
mean, Kyrie
Scottie would
puts up great
go,
numbers when he no Kyrie puts up great numbers when he plays. He just steps away from the game and like starts doing other bullshit and like he's a great player
yes,
when he's on the
but
court, but the big thing is when he is on the court because he's not on the court all that often because he's not allowed to play in
100%. And Noah,
Brooklyn
he is. We both know. Yes, and that's the big issue
and
right now. It is not that he does. Like, yes, he does other things. A lot of players do a lot of other things away from wherever they're doing it. So that's not the distraction they're talking about.
but they
The
don't but they
distraction
don't
they're
but they
talking
don't
about is
miss
him not being
games
able
but
to
they
play
don't
in
miss
Brooklyn.
games
And
but they don't miss games to go do those other things. Is the difference. Kyrie
yes,
has
but we
multiple
both
times stepped
know.
away for like weeks or a month at a
Okay,
time
fair, fair.
to go like do other things that he's feels are more important and good for him feel that he feels more important. But like then then don't be on an active roster and be getting paid if you're going to be doing that shit.
Well, we'll see what happens because and it's going to be one of those things where they don't even have an option. It's not like Harden said, "Get rid of Kyrie or and I stay." It's Harden saying, "Yeah, I'm out." So get the points. I mean, get the player, get some value for him. One trade that's not being talked about, and one that I truly, in my heart of hearts, needs to be made. Lakers got to get rid of Westbrook, bro. They got to trade him away. I don't know what value there is in Westbrook with the performances that he has had this season. I don't know if there is even a market for Westbrook and something they can get besides maybe some second round, third round picks.
No, he's
I
too expensive. He's too expensive.
way too expensive.
No team that's a competitor right now is gonna want to make a trade for him because like there are players that can contribute more at a much cheaper price point.
True, absolutely. But do you know who would? Do you know where Westbrook does have value? He has value to a small market team. He's a value to a team that isn't playing so well right now. Let's look at this. Let's look at maybe the Thunder, the Rockets, the Kings, Spurs, Pelicans. I mean, they can't trade him to the Lakers, but the Lakers would be in that
He just
conversation. The Hawks, maybe you
he
can get Trey
literally just
Young.
came.
The Nets, maybe get James Harden to LA. I mean,
No, Russ isn't moving. He's not moving anywhere. He's staying put. Nobody wants him.
that's a shame.
Nobody wants
It is
Russ.
a
Nobody.
shame.
No, well, just nobody wants Russ on a max contract. That's
No,
just
they
the
don't.
reality of
I
it.
don't blame them because the Lakers
And
shouldn't have wanted him on a max contract.
the Lakers are the ones stuck with him. And
Oh, and honestly, it's so enjoyable to watch them suffer through that. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers look like a team with zero identity. So that whole LeBron James being the GM experience didn't is not working.
No, not working out whatsoever. But Noah, I have nothing else to say about the NBA. Do you have anything to say about the NBA before we wrap up the NBA segment of our show? And I do believe this may be the longest that we have spoken about the NBA in the history of our show. So props to us on that, Noah. That just proves that football truly is coming to a sad ending.
I'm sure we'll talk more in, later on this week because we do have, another solid 40-ish hours
Yep.
before the trade deadline. Um, I'm sure there will be a trade or two out of nowhere that's going to be shocking.
Yeah.
There always seems
Oh,
to
it will be.
be one or two of those at the hours before the deadline. So today was just kind of the start of that, but yeah, we will see what happens in the next day and a half or so.
Yeah, no, we definitely will, and it's going to be exciting to say the least because trade deadlines are always exciting, or they're complete and utter duds. But no matter what, we will cover it. Just like we cover everything that is sports because there are so many sports going on right now with the Winter Olympics getting off to a good start. The event I'm most interested in, men's curling, has not started yet, but I'm waiting with bated breath as Team USA, the same team that won gold 4 years ago, tries to go back and do a repeat. And Noah, goddamn it, I know those boys can. Because if there's one thing the U.S. men's hockey, curling team is really good at doing, it's drinking some PBR and throwing some rocks down some fucking ice, bro. I'm all about it.
Can we just talk for a real quick second about how the U.S. men's curling team looks like a bunch of dads who just grill and drink beers every Saturday?
Oh, 100%.
Like
100%, bro. Not even that.
they look like middle-aged dads. They look like middle-aged dads, and it's amazing.
Bro,
They won a gold medal.
they look like they accidentally, like, they got bored one Saturday and were like, oh, let's join this curling league, and then a couple months later, like, fuck, we're in the Olympics. What's going on? And honestly, I'm all about that, dude. I'm all about it. That's the American dream right there. So shout out to the U.S. men's curling team.
Four guys who got bored of bowling nights and were like, let's try something new. They're like, this is kind of like bowling.
It's close enough, right? Dude, no, shout out, bro, because they're just going to bring back some more gold for our country. And they're going to do what they love doing, and that is, probably, finding an excuse to stay away from the wives during the winter when the golf courses were closed. So shout out to them.
Hey, and all expenses paid. 2 week vacation. So
to fucking Beijing. That sounds awesome. Anyway, obviously, or sorry, not Beijing. Where are they today?
Yeah, Beijing.
They're in Beijing, aren't they? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was me being wrong about something. That's usually when you give me an But I'm glad I'm right on my U.S. curling because I do follow that very closely.
No, I was just gonna say, speaking of U.S. teams,
that I was about to
that I don't necessarily expect to take home the gold this year unless we have a Miracle on Ice Part 2. The U.S. men's hockey
calling
team.
for a part 2 of Miracle on Ice. All right.
Oh, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but given that the NHL players are not participating in the Olympics, obviously, hurts the U.S. and Canada more than any other country. Probably the U.S. more than anybody. We have 18 members of the U.S. men's hockey team roster are in college. I think 8 or 9 of them are from the state of Minnesota. Shout out. State of hockey. But
so just to be clear, Noah, 18 of the team members on Team USA were in the place that we were, where we were going to bars, doing beer bongs and shotgunning beers left, right, and center.
Yeah, and over 2/3 of the team are younger than we are. Over 2/3 of the team are younger than you and I are, AJ. So we have a very, very young team that has never played together. going up against, a couple, the other countries, obviously, but then you have Russia, where you have all the KHL players, which is probably the second best professional league behind the NHL. I mean, this is men versus boys here. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Like I said, if the U.S. does win, it will be essentially the Miracle on Ice Part 2. If we can win a gold medal with the roster that we have, that would be like unbelievable.
No, Noah, I just want you to humor me for a hot second, okay? Because I actually recently had a conversation with a coworker of mine who has a lot of experience in the AHL. Uh, and he talked to me about their whole recruiting process and how the AHL then goes into college and then college to the, and everything like that and how that all works out. And
Um,
from speaking with him,
the AHL is the NHL's like farm league.
not AHL, I'm so sorry. They go high school to something to college
I mean, there's like
because
national
there's a
juniors
buffer
teams
period.
yeah, there's like
National
national
juniors, that's
juniors
what I meant.
teams that they you can play on between like the ages of 16 and 18, which
I thought it was a
you
different
know,
period. Anyway, regardless, the guy has got a lot of experience in the AHL. He's been around a lot of teams. He's been around a lot of players and everything. And speaking with him about that because I knew that the and NHL players were not going to be in, and I was like, hey, I assume that some of these guys are going to step in there. How worried should I be? And he's like, hockey's one of those sports where they're either on the level or they're not, and making it to that level, they're going to make it to the show, or they're going to get at least a shot at the show. And so, Noah, I'm really feeling a Miracle on Ice Part 2 here. I don't know
I don't
why, but
AJ, I do have to say though, there's a big difference from people who are NHL prospects that may or may not pan out in a couple years versus the top 25 professionals in the KHL, the Russian Hockey League. Like I said, this is men versus boys, and I fully expect Russia to just dismantle most of the competition. By the way, took a big wager on the Russian men's team at plus 150, which I am shocked that they're
ooh,
giving plus odds on the Russian
yeah,
team
there's
for
plus
this
odds on
Olympics.
that.
Um, and I'm not advising anybody to go do that. I'm just saying I am very very confident that the Russians are going to take home the gold in men's hockey.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Because the other thing that, listening to a lot of sports broadcasters talk about the Bengals and everything, a lot of NFL players talk about the Bengals and everything, there is a bliss in ignorance. Not knowing what you don't know, not understanding how big of a moment you're in, and just kind of being thrusted into it like the Bengals kind of were. I think that could be a bonus for the USA Hockey, and I think it's going to be one of those things where we'll
AJ,
see with the Bengals before we see with USA Hockey if that inexperience will be a more of a bonus than a setback.
AJ, the Bengals are good. This is the Russians versus the field. This is the equivalent of like I don't even. This is like the equivalent of like Chicago Bulls teams with like one or two of those teams with Michael Jordan, where it was just like you knew they were going to win the championship from the beginning of the year. Like, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're 3.5 hours away from the start of the men's hockey group stages. So over the next couple days, we will see those group results. Women's hockey just wrapped up their group results.
Yep.
I believe U.S. lost 4-2 to Canada. My guess is we will see a U.S. Canada rematch in the gold medal game, is what it's shaping up to look like. They
We've been
definitely
looking
are the
good.
two
Besides
best
that
teams.
Canada game, we've been looking pretty good.
And you know what? I'm waiting for the revenge game in the gold medal game against Canada. Uh, Obviously, last night, Team USA, our women's team, we outshot Canada by a huge clip. If we do that again, the the pucks will
Yeah,
find the nets, and we will win.
their goalie just
Um,
had an incredible fucking game. Like
Yeah,
the Canada goalie just had an incredible game.
yeah. But as far as men's goes, I think U.S. was like the I think fifth or sixth best odds to win. We're at I
Whew,
think plus 1,600.
that's steep.
Yeah, so USA 16 to 1. I I'm not gonna rule them out, but I'm not confident at all that the U.S. I think we'll make it out of group stages, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
Um, in our group, we have China, um, China, Canada, and Germany. So we should be able to beat China and Germany if we can steal a win against Canada. That'll put us in pretty good seeding. Um, but I believe the way it works is the top two teams should advance. So all we have to do is be second in that group stage.
Hey, that's not bad. I mean, we can do it. I'm confident in the boys. I'm confident. I think we'll do good. And then, of course, curling's going to do what curling does. Shout out curling. They're the boys. But yeah, no, it's going to be a good time. Any other thoughts on the Olympics before we wrap up this episode of Degenerate Takes?
I haven't been watching a whole lot of it. I'll have it on in the background sometimes, but I don't know. I like the Olympics and everything, but you just got constant college basketball on multiple games at a time, and I am just I'm definitely more inclined to be watching these big college basketball games than like you know skiing, snowboarding. No disrespect to
No
our Olympic
disrespect,
athletes or
but
anything, but obviously I'm going to be watching college basketball over figure skating, snowboarding, skiing, speed skating, stuff like that.
yeah, especially because our audience appreciates when we talk about college sports a lot more than anything else. So, yeah, we will pay attention to college sports a little bit more during the Olympics.
By the way, I had number one Auburn taking an L at Arkansas earlier today.
In OT, that was awesome.
Yeah, that game that was crazy.
That was a fun game to watch.
We'll see how far
Honestly,
Auburn slips. I'd imagine they slip down to like 4 or 5, which would put Arizona up to 3. I don't
yeah,
think Gonzaga is going to lose any games, so it'd be nice to see Purdue drop one so we can get up to 2.
100%.
But
But we'll
yeah,
see what happens. We will see what happens. Noah, we have our big announcement coming out Monday. I think we should do a trade deadline and a degenerate bets for the Super Bowl on Thursday. You down?
yeah, absolutely. We got to get those. We got to get both takes and bets in for the Super Bowl. So maybe we'll combine those into one, and then if there's
Maybe
any
we'll
other
just
big
do.
if there's any other big moves for the trade deadline, we'll definitely cover those.
Maybe we just do a live stream on Thursday night. Bets and takes. We'll talk about that. We'll
Good.
talk about it. But regardless, you will get both takes and bets from us for the Super Bowl. A degenerate special take, some would say. I think that's what we'll start calling it. I heard that the other day when I was talking to a buddy, and I kind of liked it. But conversations for later. Again, we have our big announcement coming on Monday. Noah, a lot of exciting stuff going on. I'm here for it. I know you're here for it. And audience, we hope you're here for it. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us on all the social media Degenerate Takes. Instagram and Twitter at DGen Takes 69 on the TikTok. We'll see you next time on Degenerate Takes.